Hello, this is Pastor Don and Don along once again with Grafted In, and we're coming to the conclusion of a series we started at the beginning of the summer, talking about Israel, the history of Israel, how she was created, the wars that have been launched against her by Arab nations, unending. My Bible tells me, Donna, they're going to be unending.
That's right.
Until Yeshua returns, and there will be 1,000 years of peace. But up into that, man is not going to create peace in the Middle East. But you know, the Bible says that all the peoples of the earth, in Genesis 12:3, all the peoples of the earth will be blessed through Abraham and his people.
That's right.
And that he will be a blessing to us. And furthermore, if we bless, God's people will be blessed.
Yes,
but if we stand on the wrong side with Israel, then we place our own nation under a curse.
That's right.
So my question, Donna, is how has Israel blessed the world? Think about it for a moment. You know, there's an insanity in history. We have this image that we're getting smarter. and that, you know, progress just keeps going on and on and on. And we're obviously smarter than previous generations.
Right, you think so.
And yet, with all our intelligence, we don't know how the pyramids were built.
That's right.
We don't understand it. We don't understand down in South America how there's these symbols carved into the landscape that we can only see from space. So from space, you see these seem to be directional signs, but how are they carved? Who carved them? We don't understand a lot of the secrets of astronomy, how early empires without computers, without things, how did they know things? But we got this image, we're getting smarter and smarter. And I was listening to a tape about the Middle Ages, and the teacher was talking about the battles and wars of the Middle Ages and how many men died of a certain injury in the Middle Ages. And he said the Egyptians knew how to treat those. Yeah. The Greeks knew how to treat those injuries. So if you went back in civilization, the Greeks and the Egyptians knew a procedure by which they could relieve pressure on the brain, and people who had brain injuries would survive. But in the Middle Ages, nobody knew how to do that at all. Wow. And there were massive casualties. So civilization can enter places like the Dark Ages.
That's right.
And when you enter the Dark Ages, what a civilization does is it kills the people who are its blessing.
Amen.
And then all of humanity goes back to more barbarian ways. And short of Yeshua showing up, I believe that's what would happen in our world now, because the world is set against the one nation that has blessed the world more than any other, the nation of Israel. So let me share some statistics with you.
Yes.
You know, Israel, by the way, is the 100th smallest country. So there's 99 countries bigger than Israel. It's only got 1/1000th of the world's population. But
it has all of the world's attention.
Yeah, right. That's good, Donna. It has all of the world's attention. Do you know that its economy is $100 billion economy? And it's larger than all of its immediate neighbors combined.
That should tell you something right there.
Egypt, Jordan, Syria, Lebanon, Iraq, add up all their economies, far more people, far bigger land, far more, you know, the Israeli economy is stronger than all of those.
That little tiny piece of land.
Put together. It has the highest percentage of home computers. It has the highest ratio of university degrees to population. Bigger than ours. More of its population have their degrees. It produces more scientific papers per capita than any nation in the world, including the United States.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. It has the largest number of startup companies in proportion to population of any nation. And here's an interesting one. In actual numbers, Israel is second to the United States.
Wow.
In terms of startup companies. That's amazing. All of the United States.
The size of Rhode Island?
The size of Rhode Island. Absolutely amazing.
Just imagine if they had more land.
Imagine if they had more land. Imagine if instead of taking away...
Right, if they didn't have to use all their energy to defend themselves just to live, just think what they could do for the world.
Imagine if the Israeli budget did not have to put the amount of money into defense they did.
That's right.
Imagine what it's costing this world.
Right.
Do you know
That's right.
Miracles are coming out of Israel in terms of transplants, in terms of medical advances. Can you imagine if the Israeli economy could take the billions of dollars it has to spend just to defend its right to live? If they could spend it on research,
That's right.
our world would be blessed. We are literally, by not putting an end to those nations, and we could do it, by the way.
Yep.
The United States could walk in and we could simply say, that's it.
Enough.
No more funding. Do you know if the United States cut off the funding to the Palestinian Authority, they'd cease right now?
That's right.
We fund them, not the Arabs.
That's right. That's right.
We fund them. If we simply said not one more penny, I don't care if you call it humanitarian aid or what, not one more penny of our money goes to any of those nations, they would collapse.
That's right.
And if we went in and said, if you launch so much as one missile against Israel, we're going to launch 10 missiles against your nation, they would stop launching them. Just like that. Mm-hmm. If for every one you said, we're going to send 10, we could end it in 3 months' time. Mm-hmm. No more would that happen again.
That's right.
And now all that money, where would it go? It wouldn't go to make Jews rich.
No,
it would go to the blessing of humanity.
That's right. Including the humanity that's trying to wipe them out.
Absolutely. So we've been, and we realized that in the West Bank, the so-called West Bank, when Jordan owned that, you know, we talked about this earlier, you know, the Arabs who lived there didn't have water, they didn't have electricity that was reliable, they had very few schools, they had no colleges.
Right.
And now in that so-called occupied land, the Israelis have provided water, reliable electricity. They provided schools. They built hundreds of schools for the Palestinians.
Right.
And the major university in Samaria, in Ariel, has Arab Muslim students there.
That's right.
Israel blesses people.
That's right.
And the world, in its Arab influence, is trying to kill the one who blesses. Right. And we better wake up to that. Do you know that it has the highest average living standard in the Middle East? That shouldn't surprise us, but here's what does.
Look at all that they're surrounded with.
The average, and by the way, there's a lot of poverty in Israel. Yes. A lot of poverty in Israel. Mm-hmm. Yep. But you know their average standard of living exceeds that of the United Kingdom? Come on, folks, let's wake up here. It's the only liberal democracy in the Middle East. It has the third highest rate of entrepreneurship in the world, and the highest among women, bigger than us.
Wow.
Percentage-wise, there are more women entrepreneurs in Israel than in America. And among those over 55, more entrepreneurs in Israel.
You certainly wouldn't find that in the states that are surrounding them.
Oh, not at all.
Women are no rights there.
You know, we have our own immigrant issue. We got our, illegal immigrant issue and all that. You know, relative to its population, Israel is the largest immigrant absorbing nation in the world. Mm-hmm. I ask, where are the Jordanians saying to the Palestinians, come live in our land, you're our Arab brothers.
You're our brothers.
Where are the Saudis saying, open the doors, let those Palestinians don't need to live in those squalid camps, come live over here. That hasn't ever happened among the Arabs.
That's right.
And yet, there's Israel saying, we'll take any Jew from all over the world. And black Jews in Ethiopia will go down, we'll fly them up. Mm-hmm. Relative to population, the largest immigrant absorbing nation in the world.
Yep.
Absolutely. Here's an interesting one. It has the world's second highest per capita rate of publishing books.
Wow.
Isn't that amazing?
Amazing, yes.
It's the only country to enter the 21st century with a net growth of trees. You say, well, that's an interesting fact. Yeah, they plant trees more than they use trees. Right. It has more museums per capita than any country in the world. It leads the world in the numbers of scientists and technicians in its workforce. It has 145 scientists and technicians for every 10,000 citizens. In the U.S., it's only 85. We have 85 scientists and technicians per 10,000. By the way, Japan has only 70. Germany has only 60. Israel has 145. Israel has Microsoft and Cisco's only research and development facilities outside the United States. So let's talk about some things that were invented in Israel that if they weren't invented, you might have a different
our
life.
lives.
Yes. Donna, why don't you share some of those with us?
One of the things they've invented, which has become a common thing from the youngest on up to the oldest now, is the cell phone.
That's right.
The cell phone
was invented in Israel by Motorola Israel.
Yes.
Right.
And they call it the Pelephone, the miracle phone.
That's right.
Miracle phone.
And next?
Most of Windows NT and XP operating systems, Israel, Microsoft.
Wow, my computer runs on XP.
That's right.
You know, and that whole operating system came out of Israel.
That came out of them. Now, what if they were wiped off the face of the earth?
Where would that be?
Where would that be? We wouldn't have that now.
That's right.
We wouldn't have that now. Pentium MMX chip technology.
Wow, that came out of Israel Intel.
Yep.
We think of Intel, the great chip giant here in the United States,
Yep.
but its research facility in Israel is the one where the brains are.
Yes.
Oh my goodness.
That's right. Then the Pentium microprocessor in your computer most likely was produced in Israel.
And you know, also voicemail technology.
That's right.
You know, you got voicemail.
Yes,
That
that's
whole
right.
ability to have voicemail, that
right.
came out of Israel. What else do we find
Again,
there?
think if they weren't here. I mean, just if we even didn't tell them the rest of this list, just think of, we're just like back in the dark ages.
That's right. Absolutely.
Without all that. Then there was the technology for AOL Instant Messenger.
Wow.
That's a lifeline to people nowadays.
That's right.
Right? That's what they're all
Yep.
on.
Right.
And the airline industry's best flight security system. Well, we can understand why that was, can't we?
You know, if you've ever stood in long lines at Logan and gone through the ridiculous things and screening, you know, we ought to be politically correct, and we make sure that we're treating everybody equally. No, the Israelis know how to do it, and there's been no major attack successful against an
That's right.
Israeli.
That's right.
They know how to do it.
They know how to.
They could teach us.
They could teach us. They could teach the United States, and then you wouldn't have all these long lines, like you said,
That's right.
in our airports. I mean, if we just learned from the pros,
That's right.
we could eliminate a lot of
We sure could.
congestion in the airports. couldn't we?
So let's talk about some medical things there. Number 8 on that list is...
Number 8 is the first fully computerized, no radiation diagnostic system for breast cancer. Now that's an important thing because the no radiation is what's important, because radiation is known to cause cancer.
Right.
Okay? And most of the tests designed to help you to identify and diagnose that you have it they use it, and they're cancer causing things to begin with. So now they have something that has no radiation.
That's right. That's right. And look at number 9 on this list here.
A computerized system for ensuring proper administration of medications, thus removing human error from medical treatment. What are we hearing nowadays about the error percentage in hospitals?
The percentage of error in American hospitals of patients who die because medicine was administered improperly or to the wrong patient or things like that.
Right.
I mean, you go in a hospital, you better check every single thing they put in you and the dosage amount of it. But the Israelis invented a computerized system for ensuring that it was properly administered.
That's right.
Where would we be without that?
That's right. I mean, we ought to be using that in our country.
Do you know they have video cameras now that are small enough, they fit in a little pill, and you swallow it, and it goes inside, and then they can see what's going on inside through that little video camera. Guess where that was invented?
Israel.
In Israel. Wow.
Amazing.
Absolutely amazing. So when you look at the things that are invented in Israel, it's just an amazing story, and we could go on and on. I mean, I could sit here, Donna and I, for half an hour and just read medical improvements, drug improvements, science improvements coming out of the nation of Israel, and we've got people in the world who threaten to wipe them off the map.
That's right.
Excuse me. You know,
and they're not making any secret of it.
They're not making any secret of it. The Palestinians have not changed.
That's right.
Their charter, read it, go online. They don't even hide it. It's right there online. Their charter is to wipe the nation of Israel off the map.
That's right.
And it's time that we in Western democracies realize that is a mentality of barbarianism that would reduce our culture to the Dark Ages.
Amen.
Where are the advances coming out of the Arab world? Come on, I ask you. Go do your research.
That's right.
Where are the medical advances coming out of the vast billions the Arab world has? Where are the great scientific? Back in history, they once were there. No longer.
That's right.
No longer is that true. Where are the Nobel Prizes in medicine, chemistry, and physics being awarded to Arabs and Muslims? They don't exist. I think there's been 3. There's been hundreds awarding to Jewish people.
That's right.
Where we have a whole society coming against the most prolific advanced society in our world, and the world that is against progress, against advancement, have all focused to destroy the one leader. And the one leader is not the United States. We are not the leader.
We're not the leader. But we're next in line.
We're next in line.
Once they destroy them,
they make no
then
bones
they're
about it.
after us.
After, as they say, first we get the little Satan, then we get the big Satan.
First we get the Saturday worshipers, then the Sunday worshipers.
Is America to think we can negotiate with that?
That's right.
And we do have a Congress, in the House, and in the Senate, who seem to overwhelmingly understand that. Unfortunately, we have a State Department that absolutely is against where we are as Americans, and we have a current president who likewise doesn't understand that, who thinks you can negotiate with barbarism. You never can in history. The Romans could not negotiate with a barbarian hordes that finally overthrew that advanced culture.
That's right.
Unless you stand up against it and you say no to it.
That's right.
It is going to win. It always has in history.
That's right.
So when it comes to supporting Israel, that is the most American thing we can do.
That's right.
And I want to close our session today by referring to some of what former presidents have said about God's people, the Jews, and about Israel as Israel came into existence. And it's amazing because we can go to our Puritan forefathers who were very pro-Jewish, but and by the way, who believed that the day was coming when Israel would be reestablished as a nation.
That's right.
They believed what the Bible said.
That's right.
But let's read some quotes here. The first one we have is from John Adams. John Adams says, "I sincerely wish to see the Jews settled again in Judea, forming an independent nation." Let me say that again. John Adams, one of our early heroes, early presidents. "I sincerely wish to see the Jews settled again in Judea, forming an independent nation." This is well before 1948.
That's right.
And then Woodrow Wilson. Donna, why don't you read what he said?
Woodrow
there?
Wilson said, "The Allied nations, with the fullest concurrence of our government and people, are agreed that in Palestine shall be laid the foundation of a Jewish commonwealth."
So we're in agreement with that.
It's in agreement.
It's historic in our country.
The Allied nations all agreed this.
We can look at Warren Harding, not your most popular president to think of, but Mr. Harding said this: "It is impossible for one who has studied at all the services of the Hebrew people to avoid the faith that they will one day be restored to their historic national home, and there enter on a new and yet greater phase of their contribution to the advance of humanity."
And we just told about all the advances.
Isn't that what we've been saying?
That's
President
exactly
Harding
what we were
said,
just telling.
"You cannot study what the Jewish people have done without realizing that one day they're going to be a nation and contribute to the advancement of humanity. When you side with the Palestinians, you are against the advancement of civilization."
That's right.
Well, what about Harry Truman? Harry Truman,
yes.
who was the first to recognize Israel as a nation. What did President
Harry Truman
say?
said, "I had faith in Israel before it was established. I have faith in Israel now. I believe it has a glorious future before it, not just another sovereign nation, but as an embodiment of the great ideals of our civilization."
Now think about that and ask yourself, what has happened in the education of America? What has happened in our colleges? What has happened in our schools? That we now have teachers who don't understand what President Truman understood. What has happened in the liberalism that has taken over our education establishment, that we now have leaders who don't understand that Israel is an embodiment of the great ideals of our civilization. It hasn't been taught. And woe to our nation, how far we've lost the ability to see rightly since President Harry Truman made that statement.
That's right. How did she suddenly become the villain? I don't understand.
That's what liberalism will do.
There's no natural explanation for that.
No,
there's only a supernatural.
There's a supernatural. Well, we don't need to go as far back as Harry Truman. We can go right into our own Commonwealth of Massachusetts and our favorite son, President John F. Kennedy.
John F. Kennedy.
And this is what John Kennedy said. Donna, why don't you read?
John F. Kennedy said, "Israel was not created in order to disappear. Israel will endure and flourish. It is the child of hope and home of the brave. It can neither be broken by adversity nor demoralized by success. It carries the shield of democracy and it honors the sword of freedom."
That's amazing. Now, President Kennedy certainly was in the liberal stream of thinking in America, but his whole view was Israel was not created only to disappear. One wishes that President John Kennedy was president again.
Yes.
And you would want to say, and what would President Kennedy say about the Palestinians saying, we want our own state and we want to throw Israel out? I think President Kennedy would have a lot different things to say.
I think he would. A lot different than what our president.
Well, another Democrat, Lyndon Johnson, right after him. Lyndon Johnson said, most, if not all of you, have a very deep tie with the land and people of Israel, talking to a group of Jewish people, as I do. For my Christian faith sprang from yours. This is President Johnson. The Bible stories are woven into my childhood memories as a gallant struggle of modern Jews to be free of persecution, and it's woven into our souls. President Johnson was saying, as a Christian, Israel and the Jewish people are woven into the fabric of who we are.
That's right.
And what about Richard Nixon, to go on to the other side of the house?
And Richard Nixon said, the United States stands by its friends. Oh my goodness. Israel is one of its friends. Peace can be based only on agreement between the parties, and agreement can be achieved only through negotiations between them. The United States will not impose the terms of peace. And
so the great meeting of all this historically was the so-called Oslo Accords. And in the Oslo Accords, we put a lot of pressure on Israel to come to the table and to agree, and Israel was prepared to make concessions. Israel's always been prepared to make concessions. And to come to the table. And the Oslo Accords, by the way, were the accords that allowed Arafat to get his Nobel Peace Prize.
That's right, yes.
But the Oslo Accords, and the Palestinians signed it, says that neither side will make a unilateral decision.
That's right.
That they will come down and sit at the table together and they will negotiate a peace.
That's right.
And when we began to put pressure on that, on the Palestinians to do that, now we created this whole new PA, and we're going to help Abbas become a moderate PA. Abbas will not come to the table. No. He's going to try to do an end run around and to come and let's have the United Nations. He has violated the Oslo Accords.
Yes, he has.
It is not the Israelis who violated it.
No, it is not.
It is the Arabs. They started violating it 6 months after they signed it by launching the Intifada.
That's right.
They are the liars. They are the ones who cannot be trusted. They never have upheld any agreement they've ever signed.
That's right.
Why on earth anybody would consider them a peace partner? You've got to be insane to do that. But, you know, my cut at it, Donna, and some have agreed that if the Palestinians want to unilaterally declare a state, then there are many of those, and including people in our Congress, who are very much in support of Israel unilaterally bringing in all the communities throughout Judea and Samaria into Israel proper. If you're going to go ahead and do that, we're going to annex them. And by the way, annexing property that you have taken in a war against people who were trying to kill you is historically valid. We've done it. Every nation does it.
That's right.
That if the Palestinians say we're going to unilaterally make this a state, then many of us in Israel, many of us in America have gone on record, and Congress, I believe, will go on record with this. We will stand by Israel unilaterally annexing those communities. We're not going to give up another community.
That's right.
They all become part of Israel proper.
They've given up enough.
Well, you know, we've got just 2 minutes left. I want to read from Ronald Reagan.
Good.
Ronald Reagan said this: "Since the rebirth of the State of Israel, there has been an ironclad bond between that democracy and this one. America has never flinched from its commitment to the State of Israel, a commitment which remains unshakable. Israel exists. It has a right to exist in peace behind secure and defensible borders. And it has a right to demand that from its neighbors that they recognize those facts."
That says it all right there.
Oh, that we had a president right now
That says it all.
who would stand up in the United Nations and make that same statement.
That's right.
Who would have the courage of a Ronald Reagan to say, since the rebirth of the State of Israel, because it wasn't born then, there is an ironclad bond between us, and we will not flinch from our commitment.
That's right.
It remains unshakable.
That's right.
Israel has a right to exist. It has a right to exist in peace. It has a right to exist behind secure borders.
Defendable borders.
And we need to support that.
That's right. We do.
Or as George Bush said, our two nations have a lot in common when you think about it. We were both founded by immigrants escaping religious persecution. We both have built vibrant democracies. Both our countries are founded on basic beliefs that there is an almighty God who watches over the affairs of men. These ties have made us natural allies, and these ties will never be broken. So we need to realize that's why we as a people, that's why we here at Faith Christian Ministries are always going to be supporting the nation of Israel. This is Pastor Don and Donna Long. This has been Grafted In. We hope you'll join us next week.